This is Monkey World in Dorset, the largest ape and monkey rescue centre on the planet. Today on Monkey Life. Chimp Ben loses one of his infected toes, but the staff are relieved.
He was very bothered by that toe that we were worried about, so now really that it's fallen off, the healing process can start.
I'm bigger than you, OK?
Jeremy has a run-in with feisty female orangutan, Linga.
Stop it.
And another chimp seems to have been struck down by the spreading infection.
We want her to be able to breathe, obviously. If it swells much further, that will be very difficult.
Monkey World is home to 3 groups of orangutans, including a creche for the youngsters. This morning, Animal Director Jeremy is checking up on a new relationship that's developed between Dinda and Linga.
Linga is very clingy to Dinda, and as you can see, they're like Siamese twins going round together. This has been going on for, well, quite some time now. In fact, it's got to this stage where Dinda is having had enough of it, and Dinda really is beginning to find Linga hanging around her neck a bit of a trial. So I'm sure in the near future that Dinda's going to try and break away a bit from Linga.
But for now, Dinda doesn't stand a chance of escaping, unless, that is, Jeremy's around to tempt Linga away. But it's not because he holds a special place in Linga's heart.
Stop it. Stop it. OK? Relax. No, stop it.
Linga has issues with Jeremy.
I'm bigger than you, OK? I should intimidate.
And she has him under attack.
Stop it. Look, you're not helping this, you're not. I'm bored with this now. Dr. Dolittle, eat your heart out.
Linga's constant aggression towards Jeremy means there's no love lost between the pair.
People get a bit funny with me when I say I don't like Linga. Why would I like an animal that's always trying to bite me? I mean, we could coexist, and I'm not going to be spiteful or cruel to her, but no, I don't like Linga.
But there is some comfort for Jeremy.
Apparently, it's anything of the male gender that she has a problem with, not just me. As she gets older, she's getting more aggressive with it. You know, although initially she would come and say hello and you could pick her up, but she's always got this hard attitude about it all. As she's developed with that, she's come less and less wanting anything to do with male of the human species. And that's just an example of what you're seeing there. Amazing attitude that animal's got.
Well, Linga's made her feelings perfectly clear to Jeremy.
She's waving her fist at me in the corner over there now.
Jeremy's usually loved by the primates at the park, but his charm is lost on Linga.
Yeah, I've been beaten up in better places than this, so I'm going to leave now, so we'll meet again, possibly.
Later, Jeremy has to play the bad guy again when one of the female capuchins won't go to bed.
We're just trying to get our last individual in, Esther. She does the same thing every evening.
And Chimp Ben is at last on the mend, but it's not without loss.
Although it's a shame in terms of the place that we were at a few weeks ago, we're glad that it was just the one toe.
Across the park, the female capuchin's new male housemate, TJ, is settling in well with the ladies.
He seems to be loving it. He, you know, I suppose most guys out there would say, yeah, of course he is. But, you know, it's a big responsibility to be the one male in a group of, you know, more than 30 females.
But TJ is taking the challenge all in his stride, and he's loving life with the girls so much that he's taken to covering himself with his own special cologne to impress them.
His coat looks really sort of patchy and thin because he's been doing so much urine washing. And capuchin monkeys use urine washing as a way of sort of their identifying scent. His coat is really spiky and looks like he's been squirted down with a hose pipe, but he hasn't done. What's happening is he's got a very sticky coat covered in dried urine and sometimes, you know, wet urine that he's been splashing around to show off to all of his ladies, presumably.
Strange as this may seem, TJ's indulging in perfectly natural capuchin behaviour. In the wild, dominant male capuchins would do exactly the same, and the females find it very attractive. Unlike the ex-lab animals he shares his enclosure with, TJ behaves much more like a wild capuchin. He naturally forages for his food, and when the keepers put out his favourite treat, hard-boiled eggs, he knows just what he has to do to get his hands on them. They've been hidden in nests to encourage the capuchins to forage in the same way as they would in the wild, and that's exactly what TJ is doing. But the female capuchins have only been here for 6 months. And back in Chile, they used to be served their food on a tray. So searching for dinner is still a new experience for them, giving TJ the chance to grab a good stash before they work out what they're supposed to do. But capuchins are intelligent and curious, and it doesn't take the females long to catch on. And TJ better watch out. The females are becoming more like wild capuchins every day, which means they could soon get to TJ's precious hard-boiled eggs before he does. Inside Hananya's chimp house, there's sad news for Ben and his infected foot.
Unfortunately, Ben has lost one of the toes from the foot that was very infected. It was a toe that we were always worried about. It looked the most infected, and we came in this morning and it had dropped off overnight.
This nasty infection started after Ben received a small bite to his foot from alpha male Hananya during one of their introductions.
No problem. Yeah, no.
The team did all they could to treat Ben.
That didn't hurt. I didn't even touch you.
He was given antibiotics and painkillers, but Jeremy was always concerned that Ben could lose his toes.
This one is the coldest. That one isn't quite so cold, but...
The bite area may have been closest to that toe, and obviously the infection travelled down towards the toes, but also at one stage it was going up the ankle. But obviously we then controlled the infection when we found the right antibiotics, but unfortunately that toe came off worse. Obviously the blood supply was stopped and it just died and dropped off.
The wound was so infected that Ben's lucky to have lost just the one toe.
We were worried at one time if he would lose all the toes or even the foot, so really one toe, in retrospect, is not going to hinder him in the long term. He will still have his movement and be very agile when that foot totally heals. So although it's a shame, really in terms of the place that we were at a few weeks ago, we're glad that it was just the one toe.
Luckily, Ben's leaving the wound alone, and he doesn't seem too bothered by it.
In fact, I'm sure it's probably a relief because he was very bothered by that toe that we were worried about. So now really that it's fallen off, it sounds awful, but the healing process can start because obviously that was dead material. So now they can get used to walking around with a missing toe.
After a tough few months, it seems that Ben is on the road to recovery. At Monkey World, in Hananya's chimp house, Honey has a seriously swollen tongue. The team are concerned that she has the same bacterial infection as Ben and 3 of the other chimps. But Honey's infection could be more serious. It's on her tongue, and she's finding it difficult to eat, drink, and breathe. Honey needs immediate medical attention, so park vet Femke and local vet David are here to help her out.
Good girl, Honey.
Yeah.
Honey has to be anaesthetised, and as she's been taking part in injection training, primate care supervisor Cara is able to hand inject her. This is much less stressful than a blowpipe or dart gun.
She had it? Yeah. Oh, excellent. Well done.
It's a very worrying time.
She's asleep.
With Honey asleep, it's vital that Femke checks her airway to make sure it's clear. But when Femke touches Honey's tongue,
Jesus.
Honey wakes up.
She took her hand injection fine, and then we thought she was asleep. I poked her ear, I squeezed her fingernails to see if she reacted to pain, which she didn't. But then I wanted to look in her throat to see if the airway was clear, and I had to push the tongue down, and then she reacted and she was awake again. It must be very painful, I think.
Honey can't be moved until she's fully sedated. But as she's in pain, it's taking longer for her to fall asleep.
Maybe switch them off.
To help, it's lights out, and everyone is silent.
Seems asleep again. Can someone hold the door open? And Dave, you want to help carry her, maybe?
With Honey fully sedated, the team needs to act fast. If her tongue continues to swell, she won't be able to breathe at all.
Look, I don't think that's possible.
Later,
Can't really see anything.
No.
there's even more tension. Honey's tongue is so swollen, the team struggle to insert a vital breathing tube.
Do you want to try?
Around the park, some of the primates are playing with puzzle feeders. It's a great way to encourage them to work for their food. In Hananya's group, their feeder is in the form of a swinging platform. In the wild, chimpanzees have to forage for food. Their diet consists mainly of fruit, leaves, and insects. And they can spend up to 3 hours fishing for termites. So at the park, it's good to make the chimps work for their treats. This feeder should also allow the whole troop to take part and work together to get the nuts and seeds out. Well, that's the idea anyway. Chimps being chimps, it doesn't take long before the taking part and working together bit turns into a squabble. And while this happens, Simon slips in and takes the best spot, using a stick to help him get to the treats. Unfortunately, his stick is more like a flimsy twig. And he's not getting much joy out of the feeder. Unlike wild chimps who can spend hours fishing for their food, Simon gives up quickly and tries another approach. Shake, rattle, and generally try to smash it. Simon may be tough, but the puzzle feeder is tougher. Having failed to get much in the way of food out, Simon decides it's a pretty good addition to the enclosure anyway. As another thing to play on with your mate. Back inside Hananya's house, chimp Honey is asleep under anaesthetic, so vets Femke and David can check her extremely swollen tongue.
Just the immune system.
Without medical attention, Honey could die.
We want her to be able to breathe, obviously. If it swells much further, that will be very difficult.
But before the medical examination can even begin, there's a problem.
Look at her tongue. Do you want to try?
Honey's tongue is so swollen that it's preventing the breathing tube going into her throat.
I can't really see anything from there. No. I would probably just have her on oxygen through her nose.
Yeah.
Now that David can properly examine her tongue, he can see that the severe swelling is caused by an infection.
I mean, there's enough sort of disturbance on the surface and underneath it. There's enough bacterial infection there to cause this alone.
Bacteria can invade the body through even a small wound, such as a splinter or a bee sting. But David suspects Honey has a small cut. And because this is how the other chimps in Hananya's group got their infection, it's likely Honey developed hers in the same way. And there's only one way to treat it.
We know that we can't really do much about it except for giving her intravenous antibiotics, which we are doing now. But she was on anti-inflammatory.
A wound on the tongue is difficult to treat. Creams can't be used because the tongue is constantly wet. This means it would be washed away by Honey's saliva. The 11-year-old needs an aggressive course of medication.
Mixing up some intravenous marbofloxacin, get it into a high dose into the bloodstream to hopefully get this sorted as soon as possible.
Because Honey's finding it difficult to drink, she's dehydrated, so she's given fluids through an intravenous drip.
The thing is, we want to get the marbofloxacin and this bag into her. If you hold the mask, I'll get a swab to take a swab.
The infection seems to have taken hold on the low-ranking chimps that were stressed out during the meetings between Ben and alpha male Hananya. The stress may have affected their immune system, making them more susceptible to infection. Honey is also low-ranking, so the same could have happened to her.
Yeah, and we've taken blood and swab samples from Honey to find out if we can find anything in the blood which is causing her to have an immune system that's not fighting this infection very well. So hopefully we'll find the cause. And this is okay, so actually we're finished then.
Yeah.
Take that drip out.
Yep, fine.
Good, yeah.
Honey will need to be constantly monitored to make sure her breathing is okay and her tongue doesn't become even more swollen.
I mean, I would hope over the next 24 to 48 hours we'll certainly see a considerable improvement. You know, I wouldn't lose too much sleep about it not having gone down today, as long as it's not getting bigger. I think that's the main thing.
Everyone has to keep a very close eye on Honey. They have to check on her all the time to see if she's breathing all right, and also make sure she drinks enough, because it's really hard for her with this tongue.
Honey will stay on antibiotics for the next few days. Hopefully, she'll improve and be the last chimp to contract this nasty bacterial infection. At the far end of the park, the 68 female capuchins are enjoying their outdoor space so much that it's causing problems for the primate care staff at bedtime.
At the moment, obviously, they're still getting used to the new routines and even the fact that that's their home and this is where they can have access to in the daytime. You've got two coming, who's that, Lilia and Terry? It is important that they are coming in for the right reason. In the evenings, we put in whole fruits and insect scatters and lots of reasons for them to want to come in.
But even with all these tasty treats, one of the gang still needs a little more persuasion.
We're just trying to get our last individual in, Esther. She does the same thing every evening. If it comes to it, then we'll have to call for assistance.
And this assistance comes in the shape of Animal Director Jeremy.
Just to let you know, I'm afraid Esther's still outside and going high.
Yeah, just by the orange, I'll come down now.
Thank you.
Hannah and her team have worked hard to build a trusting relationship with all of the new Capuchins. So as not to jeopardise their friendships, it's left to big, bad, scary Jeremy to usher her in.
It's important for Capuchin keepers not to be this negative influence, so that's why we call people like Jeremy down to help us in these situations to get her in. And if you've seen any of that, you'll realise it is quite stressful for the animals, and it's certainly not something that we want to be doing long term. It's quite stressful for us as well to actually have to see these animals go through this. But obviously, because of their background and what they've been through, this is all new for them, and hopefully they'll be getting used to the routine by the end of the summer.
Jeremy's presence has done the trick, and with Esther safely indoors, she can join the others for supper. Then she can restore her energy, ready to give Jeremy the runaround tomorrow night. Next time, Gibbons, Adidas and Delumi head to the trees for the very first time.
Really pleased. You can't get anything better than a gibbon in a tree.
Heavyweight Hananya puts a punch bag through its paces. And there's a problem with chimp Freddie. But will the team get to the bottom of it?
Freddie just doesn't look entirely happy. He just looks a little bit concerned all of the time.